With over $15 billion generated from 40,000 applications, Turkey's Citizenship by Investment program is one of the most sought after in the world. For many years, I had my doubts about the program as I'm in the industry and I know all the options there, but recently there was a few things that made me change my mind. So I went to Turkey to see what's happening on the ground and also try to understand who is actually doing the program right now. Hi, this is Jeremy from the Millionaire Migrant. My background is I left the UK in my 20s. I moved overseas. I built a business that became as large as 70 people across 11 offices. We processed over 10,000 passports for all of our clients with over 300 five-star Google reviews. I also have learned so much from the network I've created around this, which meant I could invest better across different asset classes through real estate, through stocks, through crypto. And I'm going to do all these videos to try and explain to you some of the information that I've gained. Now let's go back a few years, and we have been doing the Turkey application through my citizenship and residency company for several years right now. It started, I think, probably 2017, 2018 is when we really started to do a lot of applications. Then there was the price increase in 2022 when we were extremely busy, and I still remember myself personally going with one of our biggest clients, and I went in Istanbul and I was on the boat with him on the Bosphorus and just having a lot of fun talking about things. But at that time, I wasn't looking to do it for myself. Now I think about it a lot because a few things have happened. Firstly, my personal circumstances have changed in terms of financial capacity, in terms of worldview. There's been some other events that have happened recently, namely a lot of the global trade wars going on. But also what happened is that when the price went up, everywhere else went up. So all the Caribbean citizenship options went up, all the Portugal and Greece and Spain golden visa is closing, but all the golden visa programs went up. Latvia, no, but that could change. Even Hungary right now is more expensive than it was when it first came out several years ago. So everything is relative. Now the gap between some of these options and Turkey isn't so far apart. And if you consider, one of the main things about Turkey is that all your money is principally in real estate. You just have to get a little bit of a legal fee, and obviously there's a surveyor involved and everything, but all your money is really in the real estate. With the other programs, there's a lot of donations, renewals for the residency cards and so on. So Turkey that's just one of the reasons. But the other thing is that it's a very fluid real estate market. If you look at the other options that you have there, now that Spain is closed, you don't have a pure real estate play there. You've got golden visa, let's say in Portugal, for example. That one there, you're in funds, right? And funds, it depends on the fund, but I'm just not really convinced with 95% of the funds out there. I think 5%, there's some decent ones. I think there's only really 3 that myself and my company actually tell our clients to go for because they're probably the downside protected. But other than that, right now, it's just like you want to be in something that's fluid. You want to know that after you finish your hold time, your holding period, you want to get out. And the Caribbean, there's a lot of, unfortunately, as everyone is well aware, there's not really a lot of liquidity in that market. We still have clients who bought with us 10 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and they want to exit. And we have helped some of them, but some of them, and through no fault of their own, legislation changes, which basically gets them stuck. Turkey, it's just a pure vanilla real estate play. And that's what got me really interested because, as people they're probably not aware, but I'm more known for citizenship and residency and for the business that I've grown. I'm just not known about the real estate. No one really knows, actually. And you're going to start to see videos where I'm going to tell you about many case studies that I've done in real estate, which people will start to see is that I'm someone that takes bigger and bigger risks and has a very different view. I'm fearless when I'm going into real estate markets that are not everyone's cup of tea. Now, if you want to invest in the US and invest in the UK, it's fine. But when you go to emerging markets, it's a completely different ballgame and you have to be very careful. Now, if you want to do it for the sake of citizenship, that's fine. You don't mind a little bit of downside because ultimately you're getting a citizenship and it's a Turkish citizenship. And so I think for me, that is something that I'm ready to do. Yes, of course, if I bought it at 250, I'd be up probably 50, 60, even 100, 120%. Some of my clients have done that. But how much of that was down to the depreciation of the currency? We don't know. When you have inflation, a lot of people are going into property. I mean, look at Egypt, look at Turkey, to name, a couple of places. Nigeria is another one. Anywhere where there's inflation, people are getting into real estate because, that's the only way they can protect themselves other than obviously getting into gold. Now, when that's happened, I don't mind. And so I understand that, yes, I'm coming in at a bit late. I know that I'm coming in for the real estate at a higher threshold, but at the end, it's just more money in real estate. So it's all relative to the returns I'll be getting on that real estate. But The other thing that really got me interested about Turkey is that before we get into the data, which I'm going to go through some stats with you, is that I read something which had a profound impact on me. And that was the fact that within the next few years, and I'm talking basically 2025 onwards, Turkey is going to be a member of G20, NATO, the OIC. Basically, it's going to have a very important geopolitical stance and positioning in the way the world works right now. And you can see already after the fall of Assad in Syria, who was on the spot? It's Turkey, right? Okay, so they're already in Africa. They're already there. They're already a buffer between the Asia and all the stuff that goes on to the east, but also Europe and the West. They're playing an outsized role. And that means if you're a citizen of that country, you're not going to get bullied around like the Caribbean nations, Vanuatu, even Malta and the EU, or the golden visas for that matter. So you're having a very robust system around your citizenship, which I like as well. So those are some of the principal reasons, but let's go into some of the data to kind of look at the context of Turkey and why it's getting very attractive to a lot of Western clients right now. Of course, you have your bread and butter, which is your Middle East clients, your African clients, your Chinese clients, your Russian, definitely Russian and Ukrainian. But there is a pickup in Westerners. And so basically, I'm not the only one that's thinking this. So let's look at the data. If you look at the properties that have been sold to foreign citizens, Turkish properties, you'll see the trend line basically goes up to 2022. Now, 2022 was the last year before the price increase. So in the same way that I was sat on a private boat picking up a client from the Mandarin Oriental on the Bosphorus and having a great time with him. He'd already done another passport with us previously. And he's a good guy, so I enjoyed it anyway. But when I was with that chap, he wasn't the only guy. He was trying to get in before the deadline. So you'll see when there are deadlines, and this is something I keep coming back to again and again, don't wait for the last minute, because guess what? You may miss out. And if you don't miss out, you'll get in. But when you get in, you'll be really, really delayed, because guess what? You weren't the only person waiting for the last minute. So I always tell people, do it when it's not a rush. And that's why I went several times to Istanbul this year, and I'm going to keep going back, because right now nobody's talking about it. There's no, even if every Turkish real estate developer and broker is saying you, oh, they're going to announce a price increase next week, there's nothing coming out about that. That isn't to say it couldn't come out tomorrow. But if that's not happening and there's no murmurs about it, or there's nothing public, it means it's a buyer's market and not a seller's market. And if you look at the data right now, you'll see it's a buyer's market. This is the time you want to be investing. So going to 2022, there was a big spike, and that was not just because of the price increase. It was also because of the situation, the special operation that was going on in Ukraine. So there was a ton of demand coming in. But guess what? They all got in, and I'm happy for them. And the depreciation of the currency shows that on paper they're doing better. But the reality is they were probably buying properties in a seller's market. So maybe they didn't get the best deal that they wanted to. After that, you see the trend line comes down, and that's because there was a huge forward push, front loading of everyone who wanted to go in. So people were going, oh, you know what? I've missed the boat. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to wait and see. There's still crazy people who think that these programs are just going to drop their price. We get it all the time. So, oh, you know what? It's 400, but I'm just going to wait till it goes up to 250. What are you talking about? When has that ever happened? It's not going to happen. So you've got those people who sit on the guidelines who are just basically kicking themselves for not doing it. Then you've got people who go ahead and do it and say, you know what? I should have done it at 250. I missed the boat. I'm going to do 400. Hey, it's just more real estate at the end of the day. Okay, which is all proportionate, which means get more rented income. And if you get 5% uplift in price, it's 5% of 400,000. But the demand is going down, and some people say, oh, maybe I don't want to do it because that means the market's like, if you go there, it's still going up in price. It's not going up massively in through the lens of citizenship by investment, but it's going up nevertheless. Now, if you look at it by nationality, you'll see the top one there is going to be Russia, and that isn't a surprise. And then a couple of further down, you've got Ukraine, you've got Iran and Iraq, and that's just been going on for a long time because geographically it's nearby. And if you've got a bigger diaspora of Russians, then guess what? You're going to go there because you feel like you're going to get your Russian food in the Russian supermarkets, and that makes perfect sense. But when you go down a little bit longer, you'll see that the US has got quite a big influence. Germany, yes, okay, I understand. That's probably the only other Western market that is there. But you have to understand there's a very large Turkish diaspora, first, second, potentially even third generation. I'm not too sure, but probably first and second only Turkish diaspora that is there. So those numbers don't tell the whole truth. It's probably German people of Turkish descent origin who are basically saying, I get to buy back home and still get a second passport, particularly that Germany has changed law around dual citizenship. So you've got that. But then if you go down, US has got no real business being around Turkey. Why are they doing it? Those Americans doing Turkey are doing it. And again, it's a small number, but representative of US and the fact they're right next to the Caribbean. They could do the Caribbean. They could buy a holiday home in the Caribbean that is approved for citizenship. Why are they doing it? Those 50 or odd people, and again, it's a small number, but I foresee that this number is going to pick up a lot. And I'm seeing it already with my clients. They're doing it because they want to invest in a country that is that can uphold itself against any external pressure from its own country, if they still hold American passport or what have you. Or if they wanted to give up their nationality and get the Turkish nationality, they knew that they would have what some of them, and it's not my words, would say a proper country. But they will say this, but they also know that Turkey has an E2 visa waiver agreement. So if you were to give up your American passport, everybody knows it's not easy to get back to US. But with Turkey, you're legally entitled with your E2 visa waiver to be able to go back in. It doesn't guarantee it, but it's stronger than probably Grenada, to be honest, on a lot of, if you were to look at it from that perspective. Then you've got the depreciation of the Turkish lira, which, as I mentioned to you before, is one of the reasons why the property price is going up. Either people are looking and saying, you know what, from what I paid in dollars, it's going up in when I convert it back. But the other angle to this is that a lot of people are putting it, whether it's in real estate or in fixed deposits, that money is finding a home. I even did it myself. I mean, you know, I could have just done a dollar Turkish bond, and that would have been a lot more, that would have been safer, would have been smarter. I could have invested in one of the Turkish banks like Baraka or what's it called, Ziraat Bank. And I could have basically had a dollar currency bond. That could have been one option. But I always thought, you know what, let's just have a bit of fun. And so I did a Turkish lira fixed deposit. They were paying 50%. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go in for the whole year. It's a bit too, you know, I'm not that brave, but let's just try it. And then you divide it by, 12 months, you're getting about 4% give or take every month. That's not bad. I'll get that if I was to do it. But what happened is the currency kept depreciating. It's like everything I'm making in interest is getting eroded by the depreciation of the currency. So after I think about 3 months, I was like, okay, this has been a fun exercise. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get out. And thank God I did, because then Trump came in and the dollar just completely skyrocketed. So and by the way, if you want to do this for the passport, that option is off the table. They announced it not too long ago, I think about a couple of months ago. They've taken the fixed deposit off the table. So the only option you have is the real estate. So I've been going there a few times this year, and I'll be going a little bit more. And I went to look at the projects that are out there. What I noticed is that the lira is weak, the market is weak. Now might be, in my real estate experience, a good time to go and look at some options. But you need to be buyer beware. So you'll see here a clip of me where I went to look at a real estate project. It was recommended to me by someone. And look, I'll take any recommendation. I don't mind. It was my first time actually looking at properties through the lens of me as an investor, as opposed to my clients. You know, we look at many different options, or my team looks at options for them, and then they've chosen their different projects. They've all got the passports. But this time I'm going for myself, and this time I'm putting my property investor hat, which I've invested in 11 countries, 30 properties, give or take, in 11 countries over the years. And I'm actively looking to get a few more this year. So, I know a little bit about property, it's fair to say. So when I was going in, I was like, okay, well, let's just start here. We went, and the developer told me, I'm not even going to show you the video. I just don't want you to listen to what this person is saying. I was not convinced myself. And if I'm not convinced, I'm not going to let you see this. So I'm not even going to put the audio on. You can just see that I looked at the project, put my hard hat on, had a look around, wasn't convinced. It was a nice little entry to what's going on there. And I have subsequently realized that there are some projects with off-plan properties in Turkey, and because of the cost of materials has gone up, and they've got a signed sales and purchase agreement with you, which tells you you're going to get X for this price. So either they use substandard materials, which, if you haven't negotiated that into your contract, you don't see the specification and the brand of each of those, you're going to get in for a surprise. Or some of them, they're just delaying the project outright. So I'm not saying it's happening with all developers, it's happening with some developers, and it's always a risk. And that's why most of the time I've invested, I have not bought off plan or under construction. I'm not saying I have in the past, but most of the time I just don't do it. And so now I'm looking to buy a property which I'm going to renovate. Now, renovation gets complicated. It's not for everybody, but again, I'm at a stage in my life with a lot of experience on my belt where I'm ready to do it. I've got a good infrastructure. I've got a good network. I've got a lot of high net worth clients in Turkey, Turkish and non-Turkish, living in Turkey. So I've got a good knowledge base around me, and so I feel, plus I have my own legal team, I have my own real estate team, my own analyst as well. So I'm going to do it this year. I'll keep you updated, and then, just follow me and see what's going on, and hopefully you'll get to learn on the way. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.